Welcome to the Sleepless Historian. If you find yourself enjoying this gentle journey, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. And don't forget to turn on loop so this soothing exploration can repeat. Now, let us settle into a cozy seat. Dim your lights, allowing a soft glow to fill the room. Take a moment to adjust your pillows and blankets, creating a comfortable nest for your mind to rest. Breathe slowly and gently, inhaling deeply and exhaling softly. Today, we will embark on a deeply unexciting exploration of Byzantine banquet seating arrangements, a topic seemingly mundane, yet rich in specificity, detail, and routine. We will glide through the intricacies of who sat where and why it mattered, though, in truth, it often did not. In the grand halls of the Byzantine Empire, where opulence met formality, seating arrangements were not mere happenstance. They were carefully calculated, reflecting status, relationships, and the delicate balances of power. Picture the long, elegantly adorned tables, set with intricately designed plates and goblets, each guest assigned a precise location, dictated by unwritten rules that governed social interaction. Why? Little by little, we will unravel the layers of these arrangements. The dimensions of the banquet hall, the measurements of the tables, and the spacing between guests. All these details formed a silent language of their own. As we explore, we will delve into the positioning of the imperial family, the hierarchy of nobles, and the subtle nuances of conversation that could shift with a mere adjustment of a chair. Isai, in the wa, in an isiwa. So, settle back, let your shoulders relax, and allow your thoughts to drift softly into this serene world. We will take our time, exploring each detail, each routine, and each measurement, guiding you gently into a restful state. Join me on this calming exploration of a world where the mundane becomes a canvas for history, one seating arrangement at a time. More. As we settle into the delicate world of Byzantine banquet seating, we must first consider the tools and materials that defined this ceremonial space. Picture the long wooden tables, usually constructed from sturdy oak, polished to a sheen that reflected the flickering torchlight. Each table would typically stretch to about 10 feet in length, crafted with care to ensure it could accommodate the weight of ornate dishes and the presence of distinguished guests. In this time, the craftsmanship was essential. Skilled artisans would often take weeks to prepare these banquet tables, ensuring that every joint was secure and that the surface was smooth, allowing for easy movement of plates and goblets. The tables were generally set with a distance of 3 feet between each, allowing guests just enough room to converse without feeling cramped. Little by little, let's consider the materials used for the tableware. Each place setting would include intricately designed plates, often made of glazed pottery or precious metals. The average cost of a single silver plate during the Byzantine era could range from 5 to 10 gold coins, depending upon its craftsmanship and embellishments. The goblets, too, varied in material. Some were mere clay, while others were adorned with elaborate gold filigree, sometimes costing as much as 20 gold coins. This attention to detail extended beyond just the physical items on the table. It was equally important to consider the arrangement of these items, which was meticulously choreographed. A typical setting would feature a plate placed approximately 1 foot from the edge of the table, with the goblet nestled close to the right side, making it easily accessible for sipping throughout the meal. Now, as we think of the guests, we must also reflect on the etiquette that governed their behaviors. Each guest was assigned a specific position based on their rank and relationship to the emperor. Little by little, the lower-ranking officials would find themselves seated closer to the edges of the table, while those of higher status were positioned nearer to the center, facing the dais where the emperor would sit. The emperor's place at the banquet was often elevated, sometimes upon a slight platform that allowed for a clear view of the room. This elevation was about more than just visibility. It symbolized the weight of authority and the importance of presence. Seating arrangements could take hours to finalize, as a committee of servants would convene to discuss the hierarchy, the relationships among guests, and potential shifts in power dynamics. Little by little, these discussions would weave a tapestry of connections, ensuring that no slight or insult occurred through improper seating. As the day of the banquet approached, the hall itself would be adorned with drapes of rich fabric, often embroidered with gold threads. The air would fill with the scent of freshly prepared dishes, while the meticulous arrangement of flowers and greenery would add a natural elegance. The process of preparing the banquet hall was a choreographed routine. First, the tables would be carried in, a task often requiring up to 4 servants, depending upon the weight. Once positioned, the tables would be covered with fine linen, each cloth measuring approximately 8 feet by 12 feet, draping elegantly to the floor. Next, the plates and goblets would be arranged, an operation that required precision. Each plate would be placed in front of each chair, aligning perfectly, with the center of the plate aligned with the edge of the table. Servants would also place small bowls of salt and honey at intervals, as these condiments were staples of the Byzantine diet. The bowls, often made from ceramic, would typically have a diameter of about 6 inches, providing just enough space for guests to dip their bread or to sweeten their wine. As guests began to arrive, the air would thrum with anticipation, though the atmosphere remained serene. Little by little, they would find their designated seats, often greeted by the gentle rustle of fabric and the soft clinking of goblets. The seating chart itself was a physical representation of the social order. It was not unusual for this chart to be written on a large piece of parchment, displayed prominently near the entrance of the banquet hall. Names would be inscribed in elegant script, each guest's assigned seat carefully noted. Once seated, the order of conversation was just as significant as the seating arrangement. Lower-ranking individuals were expected to wait for their superiors to initiate dialogue, a practice that sometimes required significant patience. Meals would often begin with the first course, typically a light soup or porridge, served piping hot and ladled into bowls. The bowls were often made from metal or ceramic, and designed to hold approximately 2 cups of liquid, allowing for ample servings to be shared among guests. Now, as the banquet progressed, guests would be encouraged to partake in the communal spirit, passing dishes around the table. This act of sharing served to reinforce bonds, even among those of varying ranks. The conversation flowed slowly, punctuated by laughter and the gentle tinkling of utensils against plates. After the first course, the next dish would arrive, perhaps a roasted fowl or a platter of fresh fish, carefully arranged for visual appeal. Each dish was prepared to reflect not only the season, but also the preferences of the emperor and the esteemed guests. Menno, waramas, enti, penem, oris, beni. The size of the banquet could vary greatly, with small gatherings featuring as few as 10 guests and lavish celebrations hosting over 100. Little by little, the dynamics of the table would shift, as conversations flowed and relationships deepened, all framed within the context of those carefully chosen seats. Now, in the quiet moments between courses, the guests might sip their wine, allowing the rich flavors to linger on their palates. Goblets would be raised in toasts, with each toast carefully articulated to honor the imperial host. As the evening wore on, the importance of seating remained steadfast, for even the most mundane interactions could carry the weight of significance. Each guest, in their assigned place, contributed to the delicate balance of power and social order that defined the Byzantine Empire. So, let us take a moment to breathe, to reflect on the serene yet intricate world of banquet seating. Little by little, we can appreciate how even the simplest of arrangements can hold a universe of meaning. In this gentle exploration, we find a connection to the past, where every detail was considered, and every seat held its own story. As the preparations for a Byzantine banquet unfolded, a myriad of gentle tasks began to take shape, each one contributing to the overall experience of the evening. The banquet hall, often adorned with rich tapestries and flickering candles, would be meticulously arranged. Tables were assembled from sturdy wooden planks, their surfaces polished to a soft sheen. Each table would typically measure about 6 feet in length, providing ample space for plates and goblets, while comfortably accommodating the guests. The seating arrangements required careful consideration. Chairs, often upholstered in luxurious fabrics, were placed with intention. The distance between seats was usually around 2 feet, allowing for easy conversation and exchanging of delicacies. Little by little, the servants would lay out the chairs, ensuring that the most honored guests sat closest to the host, a practice that echoed the hierarchical nature of Byzantine society. Whoa, way. The table linens, often woven from fine linen, would be arranged in delicate folds. Guests would settle into their places, adjusting their garments to ensure comfort. They would gently place their hands on the table, feeling the cool fabric beneath their fingertips. The arrangement of utensils was equally important. Each guest would find a plate, flanked by a simple knife to the right and a fork to the left. On occasion, a small spoon might be presented for the dessert course, often crafted from silver and polished to reflect candlelight. The banquet menu was a well-guarded secret, crafted over several days by skilled chefs. Ingredients would be sourced from local markets, where a variety of offerings awaited. Fresh vegetables, grains, and fruits would be purchased in careful measurements, often using scales that balanced to a fine precision. For example, a typical serving of lentils might weigh around half a pound, while the fruits would be chosen based on seasonality, with apples and pomegranates being especially favored during autumn gatherings. As the banquet progressed, courses would be served in a carefully orchestrated manner. A team of servants, generally numbering 4 to 6, would be tasked with bringing forth the dishes. They would glide into the hall with practiced ease, delivering platters of roasted meats, aromatic stews, and fragrant breads. Each dish would be garnished with herbs, their scents wafting gently through the air. The serving order was not random. Each course was intended to heighten the experience, extending the evening into a leisurely affair. The first course often consisted of small appetizers, such as olives and cheeses, designed to entice the palate. Following that, the main courses would arrive, often taking about 15 to 20 minutes to be presented after the initial offering. Once the dishes were placed before the guests, a moment of quiet would envelop the whole as everyone prepared to partake. They would reach for their goblets, often made from glass or metal. The act of toasting was steeped in tradition, a ritual designed to honor the bonds of friendship and loyalty. As conversations began to swirl around the tables, the guests would engage in gentle discussions, their voices blending harmoniously. The etiquette of dining in this setting was a delicate dance. Guests were expected to partake in the dishes, sampling a little of everything, while also leaving enough for others to enjoy. This unwritten rule ensured that each individual showed consideration for their neighbors, reinforcing the sense of community that was foundational to Byzantine social life. The rhythm of the banquet continued, with each course lasting about 20 to 30 minutes, allowing ample time for enjoyment and interaction. As plates were cleared, the servants would return to whisk away empty dishes, all done discreetly to maintain the ambience. The sound of soft footsteps on the stone floors, coupled with the clinking of goblets, created a soothing backdrop, enhancing the sense of tranquility. To accompany the meal, wine was poured generously. The wine would be mixed with water, often in a proportion of 3 parts water to 1 part wine. This practice not only moderated the strength of the wine, but also encouraged a sense of moderation among the guests. The act of pouring wine was considered an art form, with the server pouring slowly, allowing the liquid to cascade gracefully into each goblet. In the later stages of the banquet, as the final courses approached, the atmosphere would become increasingly relaxed. The conversation would deepen as guests found comfort in their surroundings. By this time, many would have loosened their clothing slightly, allowing for the comfort that comes with a generous meal. Desserts, often prepared with honey and nuts, would be offered, perhaps honey cakes or sweet pastries. Each bite was savored slowly, the sweetness lingering on the palate. Guests would share stories and laughter, the warmth of camaraderie enveloping the room. Throughout the evening, the host would remain attentive, ensuring that every guest felt welcomed and appreciated. It was customary for the host to rise at intervals, offering to refill goblets or bring forth additional dishes, reinforcing the role of hospitality. The host's position, both physically and socially, remained central to the evening's dynamics. As the banquet drew to a close, the final course would be served, often accompanied by a selection of fruits and nuts. The guests would linger, content and relaxed, enjoying the final moments of the gathering. Conversations would quiet, the once lively discussions giving way to gentle laughter and reflective silence. Little by little, the evening would wind down. Guests would rise from their seats, their movements slow and unhurried. They would gather their belongings, perhaps lingering for a final toast or two. The chairs, now empty, would remain as silent witnesses to the evening's exchanges. With the banquet winding down, the servants would begin to clear the tables, an organized process of collecting plates and goblets, allowing the hall to slowly regain its calm. Each item carried away would be washed and stored carefully, ensuring that the next gathering could begin anew, with the same attention to detail and gracefully arranged seating. In this gentle exploration of Byzantine banquet seating arrangements, we find a rhythm that resonates with the everyday patterns of life. Little by little, we may recognize how the simplest of gatherings can create lasting bonds and shared memories. Each detail, from the arrangement of chairs to the serving of dishes, contributes to the tapestry of human connection, woven delicately through time. As the evening progressed, the hall would start to feel the subtle shifts of energy. The gentle murmur of conversation began to soften, settling into a soothing backdrop of warmth and familiarity. Each guest, having found their place at the long, ornate tables, would begin to experience the comfort of their surroundings. The tables themselves, long and elegantly arranged, were crafted from polished wood, perhaps walnut or cherry, reflecting the soft glow of flickering candles. These tables were adorned with fine linens, woven with care, their intricate patterns inviting admiration. The fabric, often a deep shade of azure or rich burgundy, would drape gracefully, falling just to the floor, creating an air of sophistication and intimacy. At each place setting, a delicate plate was set with precision, each plate measuring approximately 10 inches in diameter, designed to hold a variety of dishes that complemented one another. The plates were accompanied by shining silver utensils, polished to a gleaming finish, resting gently on the linen, positioned just so. The fork would lay to the left, while the knife and spoon would find their home on the right. Each utensil, carefully placed, was a small yet vital part of the evening's ritual. The goblets, too, were of notable importance. Crafted from glass or finely plated metals, they stood tall and elegant, their shapes designed to cradle the rich wines served throughout the evening. Each goblet would hold approximately 8 ounces of liquid, enabling the guests to sip slowly, savoring each taste. The act of drinking would be carefully timed, allowing for pauses in conversation, moments to appreciate the flavors mingling with the air. As the feast began, the head of the table, often the most esteemed guest, would take the first bite. This act was a signal to all, an invitation for the others to follow suit. The meal would typically begin with a selection of appetizers, perhaps a light salad or small pastries, each dish presented with care. The kitchen staff, skilled in their craft, would have prepared these dishes with precise measurements and attention to detail, ensuring that each flavor was just right. Little by little, the courses would unfold, from the light beginnings to the heartier mains. Each dish would be served in a staggered manner, allowing guests to enjoy the experience without feeling rushed. The kitchen, located nearby, would be alive with the gentle sounds of pots and pans, the aromas drifting into the banquet hall like whispers of delight. Throughout the evening, the serving staff would move gracefully among the guests, ensuring that glasses were filled and plates replenished. This process, though seemingly mundane, required a delicate choreography. Servers would carry trays, often made of wood or metal, designed to balance comfortably on one hand. Each tray would hold a selection of dishes or drinks, typically weighing no more than 5 to 10 pounds, allowing for easy transport between the kitchen and the dining area. The servers understood the importance of timing. They would wait for an appropriate moment, perhaps after a shared laugh or a thoughtful pause, to approach a table, offering a refill or a new dish. This attentiveness created a rhythm to the evening, an ebb and flow that mirrored the conversations taking place. As the meal wound down, the guests would often engage in light-hearted discussions about the food, perhaps complimenting the chef or sharing stories of similar feasts. This exchange was not just polite conversation. It was a vital part of the communal experience. Each compliment would resonate softly, layered upon the gentle banter that filled the air. Once the main courses had been enjoyed, the focus would shift towards the desserts. These sweet dishes, often fruit-based or creamy, would be served with the same care as the earlier courses. The desserts might include honey-soaked pastries or a delicate custard, each plated beautifully, inviting guests to indulge just a little longer. The dessert course, too, would follow a careful pattern, It was important to allow guests time to savor the final offerings of the meal. Each dish, with its specific placement and serving order, played a role in the overall experience. Guests would sometimes discuss the intricacies of the meal, exchanging smiles as they recounted favorite moments. The gentle clinking of goblets would punctuate the air, a soft symphony of camaraderie. Throughout this time, the seating arrangement remained a silent yet significant backdrop. The placement of each guest influenced the dynamics of conversation and interaction. Those seated close together might whisper and share secrets, while those at a distance might engage in broader discussions. The social dance of the evening unfolded softly, guided by the subtle influences of proximity and arrangement. As the banquet continued, the guests would shift in their seats, perhaps adjusting their posture or leaning in closer to hear a story. The chairs, often ornate and upholstered in rich fabrics, would creak gently beneath them, adding a soothing soundtrack to the evening's exchanges. Each chair was designed for comfort, allowing guests to relax and enjoy the company surrounding them. Oh, Sora. The host, overseeing the gathering, would occasionally check in with guests, ensuring that each person felt included and valued. This act, while seemingly simple, was crucial in creating a welcoming atmosphere. The host might lean in slightly, speaking softly, offering a kind word or a gentle nod to those nearby. This gesture would encourage others to engage, to share their thoughts, and to become part of the communal experience. Slowly, as the evening unfolded, the conversation would meander from topic to topic, resembling a tranquil stream. Guests would share tales of their travels, recounting encounters with distant lands and cultures, their words weaving a tapestry of shared experiences. Each voice added to the collective narrative, enriching the ambience of the gathering. Listen, so. As the banquet drew closer to its end, the final touches would be applied. The last of the desserts would be served, and the final glasses of wine would be poured. This subtle transition indicated the winding down of the evening, a gentle reminder that all good things must eventually conclude. The hall, once filled with laughter and conversation, would start to embrace a quiet calm. The flickering candles would cast soft shadows, creating a warm glow that enveloped the guests in a sense of peace. Little by little, the conversations would taper off, voices softening into comfortable silences. In this tranquil atmosphere, the guests would begin to prepare for their departure. They would rise from their chairs, moving slowly and gracefully, as if reluctant to leave the warmth of the gathering behind. Each guest would gather their belongings, perhaps lingering for a few moments, exchanging final words and fond farewells. Ah, nee. This simple act of leaving was imbued with significance, a quiet acknowledgement of the shared experience. The chairs, now empty, would stand as silent witnesses, embodying the comfort and camaraderie that had filled the space. The servants would return to the tables, their movements fluid and practiced. They would begin the process of clearing away the remnants of the feast, gently collecting plates, goblets, and linens. Each item was treated with care, ensuring that everything found its place in the kitchen. As the last echoes of laughter faded, the hall would slowly regain its calm. The clearing of the tables would occur in a rhythmic manner, each item carried away, returning the space to its original stillness. Little by little, the banquet hall would transform from a lively gathering to a serene space ready for the next occasion, with the same attention to detail that had characterized the evening. Oh, as the banquet hall settles into a gentle hush, the servants begin their methodical task of tidying the space. They carry with them an assortment of tools, each specifically designed for the purpose of cleaning and resetting the grand table. Wooden trays, sturdy yet lightweight, are filled with gentle care. Each tray is crafted from local timber, polished to a soft sheen, allowing for easy handling. The servants approach the first table, where a variety of plates await their attention. The plates, made of fine ceramics, bear the intricate designs of the Byzantine artisans, swirling motifs of vines and flowers, painted in muted earth tones. Each plate measures roughly 10 inches in diameter. With practiced efficiency, the servants begin gathering the empty dishes, stacking them carefully to avoid any clatter. They ensure that the plates are placed upside down on the tray to keep them clean and free from dust until the next meal. Only. Next, they reach for the goblets. These shimmering vessels, made of glass or sometimes precious metals, are equally handled with reverence. Each goblet stands approximately 6 inches tall, with a delicate stem that supports a wide bowl. The servants rinse each goblet in a basin filled with warm, soapy water, using soft cloths to wipe them clean. They take their time, ensuring that no remnants of wine or mead remain. The tender care given to each item reflects the importance of preserving the dignity of the banquet experience. As the tables begin to clear, the servants shift their focus to the linens. Tablecloths made of fine linen, often woven with intricate patterns, are gently removed from the tables. Each cloth, measuring about 12 feet long, would drape elegantly over the surface, lending an air of sophistication to the gathering. The linens are folded neatly, the edges tucked in to maintain their pristine appearance. This folding is done with precision, ensuring that no creases mar the fabric's smoothness. Once folded, the linens are placed in large wicker baskets, woven from local reeds, which are known for their durability and light weight. These baskets are then transported to the laundry area, where they will be washed and pressed, ready for future use. The servants work in harmony, each knowing their role, performing their tasks with a quiet rhythm. Meanwhile, the remnants of food are gathered. Bowls of honey, jars of olives, and platters of roasted meats, now empty, are collected and brought to the kitchen. Each bowl is made from earthenware, its surface marked by the touch of many hands. The kitchen is a bustling place, filled with the aromas of herbs and spices, where the leftover food will be stored carefully for the next day's meals. The storage area is organized with careful consideration. Shelves made from sturdy wood, roughly 3 feet apart, hold an array of jars and containers. Each container is labeled with a small piece of parchment, indicating its contents. Honey is stored in glass jars, while grains and dried fruits are kept in tightly sealed clay pots to preserve their freshness. As the banquet hall transitions back to its serene state, the servants take a moment to sweep the floor. A simple broom made from bundled twigs is used with gentle strokes, gathering any crumbs or debris that may have fallen during the evening. Each stroke of the broom whispers across the tiled floor, creating a soft sound that blends into the quiet atmosphere. The hall is now ready for its next gathering, yet the echoes of laughter and conversation linger softly in the air, a gentle reminder of the warmth shared among guests. The servants take great pride in their work, knowing that it is their efforts that allow the banquets to unfold in such a graceful manner. After the clearing of the tables, the servants begin to reset the place settings for the next event. They lay out new tablecloths, freshly pressed, ensuring that each fold falls perfectly into place. The placement of silverware is equally meticulous. Forks and knives are arranged with care, aligned precisely with the edges of the table. Each fork is placed about 1 inch from the edge of the table, the tines facing upward, while the knives sit to the right, their blades turned inward. Napkins, folded into delicate shapes, are placed atop each plate, adding an elegant touch to the setting. The napkins, made of the same fine linen as the tablecloths, are folded in a manner that showcases their beauty. Perhaps they are shaped like swans, their wings curving gracefully, or they might be folded into simple triangles. The centerpiece of the table is arranged with thoughtfulness. A low, wide bowl filled with seasonal fruits, pomegranates, apples, and figs, takes its place at the center. The bowl, crafted from polished wood, accentuates the vibrant colors of the fruits. It serves as both decoration and a gentle offering, inviting guests to partake and share in the bounty. As the final touches are made, the servants step back to admire their work. The tables are a harmonious blend of colors and textures, each setting a testament to the care and attention given to the banquet. In the soft glow of candlelight, the hall is transformed, ready to welcome guests once more. The flickering flames cast gentle shadows on the walls, creating a warm ambience. The servants quietly retreat, ensuring the space remains peaceful, a tranquil pause before the next gathering. Little by little, everything is in place. The layers of preparation, the gentle rhythms of cleaning and resetting, all contribute to the beauty of the Byzantine banquet experience. Each detail, no matter how small, holds its own significance, reflecting the love and care poured into the art of hosting. As the evening deepens, the hall stands patiently, adorned and ready, a serene witness to the unfolding of life's simple joys. The soft rustle of linen, the quiet clink of dishes, and the gentle flicker of candlelight create a soothing atmosphere, lulling one into a state of calm. And so the cycle continues, a timeless dance of preparation and gathering, echoing softly through the ages. In As the guests prepare to arrive, the importance of seating arrangements begins to take shape. The Byzantine banquet was not simply a gathering for food. It was an intricate dance of social hierarchy, etiquette, and subtle nuances. The positioning of each guest held significance, whispering unspoken messages about status, respect, and relationships. Tables, often adorned with fine linens, could be quite long, sometimes stretching several meters. The use of fine silks, woven with exquisite patterns, offered a touch of elegance. Softly colored fabrics, perhaps in shades of gold or deep red, created a harmonious backdrop against the gleaming silverware. A trained servant would take great care in ensuring that each setting was meticulously arranged. In preparation, tools of the trade were laid out. Measuring cups, crafted from polished metal, would be used to portion out the right amount of food for each dish. The food itself would be carefully selected, with seasonal ingredients taking precedence. A list might be made detailing each item, along with its price, which would vary depending on the market. Fresh produce, fish, and meats were often bought from local vendors. Once collected, these ingredients would be stored in cool places, often in ceramic jars or wooden crates, lined carefully on shelves. The kitchen, a bustling hub of activity, would be filled with the warm aromas of spices and herbs, as cooks prepared each dish according to ancient recipes passed down through generations. Oh. Each dish had its own place on the table, with careful thought given to presentation. Bowls would be filled with vibrant colors, a bright beet salad next to a rich, creamy cheese, or perhaps a platter of roasted fowl surrounded by garnishes of herbs. And then, little by little, the table would take form, each item an invitation to indulge in the feast. But it was not simply the food that mattered. The arrangement of the guests also required careful consideration. The host, often positioned at the center of the table, would be flanked by those of equal or higher status. This positioning promoted conversation and camaraderie, while also allowing the host to engage with multiple guests throughout the evening. Seating charts were sometimes drawn, detailing who would sit where. The charts, often simple in design, would be placed discreetly at the entrance, guiding guests to their designated spots. The importance of seating could not be overstated. It carried with it a sense of belonging, a hint of exclusivity, and a reminder of the ties that bound individuals together. As the evening approached, the air would grow still, with whispers of anticipation filling the room. The soft sound of footsteps on marble floors would echo gently as servants moved about, placing chairs with precision. Each chair, often made of fine wood and upholstered in rich fabrics, would be adjusted to align perfectly with the table. The act of placing a chair was not merely functional, it was a ritual performed with grace and care. Din. Once each guest had arrived, the host would welcome them warmly. The first course would be served shortly thereafter. The plates would be arranged in an organized manner, allowing for easy access, while also promoting conversation among those seated nearby. Throughout the banquet, the rhythm of service would follow a gentle cadence. The servers, trained in the art of hospitality, would glide through the room. They would be equipped with small trays, holding delicate portions of food. As they moved, they would ensure that no guest was neglected, offering refills of wine or water, always attentive to the needs of those seated before them. The serving of each dish would be a moment of quiet anticipation, the guests pausing in their conversations to admire the offerings. The clinking of silverware against porcelain would create a soothing symphony as diners engaged in the slow and methodical enjoyment of their meals. And then, little by little, the banquet would unfold, dish by dish, conversation by conversation. And as the night wore on, the rhythm of exchanging courses would continue, with laughter and soft voices filling the air. The seating arrangement allowed for a gentle flow of dialogue as guests leaned in closer, fostering connections. Often, those seated at the ends of the table would have to raise their voices gently to be heard, while those seated in the middle could share quiet exchanges, creating a balance of social dynamics. In the midst of this gathering, there was also an unspoken etiquette that governed behavior. Guests were expected to wait until the host signaled the start of the meal. This might be done with a simple gesture, a nod, or a gentle clinking of a glass. The act of waiting in itself was a demonstration of respect, a moment of collective pause before the feast commenced. Diners would use small spoons, often made of silver or gold, to savor their first bites. Each course was to be enjoyed slowly. The act of eating was not a race, but rather an experience to be cherished. Conversation would ebb and flow, punctuated by the soft sounds of cutlery and the gentle clinking of wine glasses. As each dish was served, it might also be accompanied by a brief toast, a nod to the host, or a shared sentiment about the food. These moments were interspersed throughout the evening, allowing for reflection and gratitude. The act of raising a glass, the gentle clinking of crystal, all contributed to the atmosphere of camaraderie and warmth. In the Nesenia, with each passing hour, the table would become a tapestry of stories, laughter, and connection. Guests would shift their chairs slightly as they turned to engage with others, a subtle dance of movement that echoed the ebb and flow of conversation. In this gentle rhythm, the banquets of Byzantium continued, a tradition passed down through generations. The seating arrangements, while seemingly mundane, held within them the heart of social connection, the art of hospitality, and the beauty of shared moments. Each banquet was a reflection of its time, a moment to be savored, and a gentle reminder of the ties that bind us all. And so, the evening would unfold, each moment a step deeper into the experience. Little by little, the guests would find comfort in their surroundings, the warm glow of the candlelight wrapping around them like a soft embrace. The banquet was not just a meal. It was a gathering of lives, intertwined, a soothing lullaby of camaraderie, etiquette, and the simple joy of being together. Nay, as the banquet continued, the gentle clinking of dishes would become a familiar sound, echoing softly in the opulent hall. Each guest, seated according to the time-honored traditions of the Byzantine court, would find their place among the carefully arranged seats. The process of determining who sat where was meticulous and steeped in layers of social hierarchy. The tables themselves, crafted from rich, dark woods, would be adorned with intricate carvings, reflecting the artistry of the period, while the chairs were upholstered in sumptuous fabrics, inviting a sense of ease and comfort. Yeah. The seating charts were often prepared in advance using parchment and ink, with careful notations that indicated the rank and standing of each guest. High-ranking officials would be positioned closest to the center of the table, where the most delectable dishes were placed, while lower-ranking individuals would find themselves seated further away, near the edges. This was a subtle dance, a gentle reminder of the intricate web of relationships that defined the Byzantine court. As the guests arrived, they would be greeted by attendants, who would guide them to their designated chairs. The attendants, dressed in finely tailored garments, would carry with them small gilded tablets, inscribed with the names of the guests, ensuring that everyone found their rightful place. The act of seating was not merely logistical. It was a carefully orchestrated performance intended to honor the hierarchy and maintain the social fabric of the gathering. Once seated, the guests would engage in a slow ritual of settling in, adjusting their attire, and arranging the delicate tableware before them. The plates, often made of finely crafted ceramics or glass, would be positioned precisely in front of each guest, while the utensils, usually a knife and a single spoon, would rest elegantly to the side. The glasses, varying in size and design, would be placed to the right, ready to receive wine or water as the evening progressed. The wine itself would be carefully chosen for the occasion, often a rich red or a sweet white, poured into chalices that sparkled in the flickering candlelight. Each guest would partake in the act of pouring, a small, intimate gesture of generosity and abundance. The act of serving wine was not rushed, but rather a slow, deliberate process, allowing guests to engage in quiet conversation as they filled their glasses. As the banquet unfolded, the rhythm of dining would settle into a pattern. The first course, often a light dish of fruits and cheeses, would be presented by attendants who moved gracefully between the tables, ensuring each guest was served in turn. The fruits, carefully selected and arranged, included figs, grapes, and pomegranates, all offering a sweet contrast to the salty cheeses. The act of tasting was slow and savoring, allowing the flavors to linger on the palate. None. Wow. Each course would follow this gentle cadence, with the presentation taking place with care. Bowls and platters would be placed upon the table, their aromas wafting gently into the air, a tantalizing promise of the flavors to come. The dishes were often served in large portions, designed to be shared among the guests. This method of serving encouraged conversation, as individuals would lean in to discuss their favorite flavors, to share stories of past meals, and to engage in the gentle art of hospitality. The second course would typically feature more substantial offerings, perhaps roasted meats or richly seasoned stews. The aromas would fill the hall, inviting anticipation and appreciation. Each dish was crafted with attention to detail, using spices such as coriander, cumin, and dill, transforming each bite into a symphony of taste. Guests would take their time, savoring each mouthful, allowing the food to nourish not just the body, but the spirit as well. The seating arrangements had an underlying purpose: to facilitate conversation and connection. Guests would often turn to one another, leaning in to listen closely, creating a soft hum of dialogue that filled the space. The careful placement meant that those with shared interests or alliances were often seated close together, allowing for meaningful exchanges to unfold. Little by little, friendships were forged, and bonds were strengthened over shared meals and stories. As the evening wore on, the rhythm of dining would continue, each course flowing seamlessly into the next. An array of side dishes, perhaps grains or vegetables, would accompany the main offerings, adding layers of flavor and texture to the meal. The grain, often barley or wheat, would be cooked to a tender perfection, while the vegetables might be prepared in a variety of ways: boiled, roasted, or lightly seasoned with herbs. Each dish was presented with care, the colors vibrant and inviting. Oh, the act of serving was a careful choreography, with attendants anticipating the needs of the guests. The attentiveness of the attendants would allow the hosts to engage fully in the conversation, their focus on the gentle flow of interaction. As plates were cleared and new courses introduced, the atmosphere remained warm and inviting, a cocoon of camaraderie. As the banquet progressed, dessert would be introduced, often a sweet offering of pastries or fruits drizzled in honey. The desserts were a celebration in themselves, designed to delight and please the palate. Guests would take their time, enjoying the sweetness, sharing bites and laughter as they indulged. Each sweet morsel would linger, rich and satisfying. Throughout the evening, the guests would be reminded of their shared experience, the gentle laughter and soft conversations weaving a tapestry of connection. The seating arrangements, while meticulously crafted, faded into the background, becoming a seamless part of the experience. In this serene atmosphere, time seemed to slow, allowing each moment to be savored. Yeah, yeah. And as the final courses were being enjoyed, the gentle sound of the banquet hall would echo softly, a lullaby of contentment. The candlelight flickered, casting warm shadows that danced across the faces of those gathered. The evening would continue, little by little, each moment drawing everyone deeper into the experience of togetherness and hospitality. The Byzantine banquet was not just a meal. It was a ritual, a gentle affirmation of life's simple pleasures, an embrace of community, and the art of sharing joy in its most tranquil form. Ah, as the evening wore on, the soft murmur of conversation continued, enveloping the banquet in a warm embrace. Each guest, comfortably seated, had found their place in the intricate design of the evening. The banquet hall, a spacious expanse filled with the golden glow of candles, was meticulously arranged to facilitate both ease and intimacy. The seating arrangements in a Byzantine banquet were not merely functional. They were a reflection of social hierarchy and relationships, a gentle reminder of the connections that bound the guests together. Each chair, crafted from polished wood, bore the weight of thoughtful deliberation. The artisans who made these chairs took great care, choosing fine timbers, often oak or walnut, and applying layers of smooth varnish to enhance their beauty. Ah, Lee. These chairs were often adorned with soft cushions, filled with down feathers, ensuring a comfortable experience for all who sat upon them. Each cushion, carefully sewn from rich fabrics, would be arranged just so. The colors and patterns were chosen not only for aesthetic appeal, but also for their significance, often reflecting the family crest or the personal taste of the host. Nay, as guests arrived, they would be greeted warmly, and their seating would be indicated by small tokens. These tokens, often made of clay or wood, would be placed at each setting. Each token might be inscribed with a name or symbol, ensuring that everyone knew exactly where to sit. This practice, while seemingly simple, was essential for maintaining order in the midst of social complexity. The process of seating was deliberate and respectful. The host would often guide the guests, gently escorting them to their designated places. This was a moment of significance, as the order of seating could reflect alliances, friendships, or rivalries. Little by little, each person would take their seat, creating a delicate balance in the room, a balance that was both visual and social. The table itself would be set with great care. Long wooden tables, polished to a sheen, stretched across the banquet hall. Each table would be covered with a fine cloth, often linen or silk, that fell gracefully to the floor. The cloth would be meticulously smoothed, ensuring that there were no wrinkles or creases. On the table, plates made of earthenware or metal would be arranged, each one perfectly aligned. These plates varied in size, depending on the course being served. Larger plates would hold the main dishes, while smaller ones would accommodate appetizers and desserts. Each plate would be filled with a bounty of food, a feast that showcased the host's generosity and culinary skills. Cutlery was also arranged with care. Each setting included a knife, a fork, and sometimes a spoon, all crafted from silver or bronze. The utensils would gleam in the flickering candlelight, and they would be placed precisely, with the knife positioned to the right of the plate and the fork to the left. Should a spoon be included, it would rest above the plate, ready for use when necessary. As the banquet progressed, the rhythm of dining was both structured and fluid. Guests would begin with lighter fare, savoring the flavors slowly, little by little. They would take their time, engaging in gentle conversation, sharing stories and laughter. Each moment was an opportunity to connect, to bond over the shared experience of food and company. Servants, often clad in simple yet elegant attire, would circulate through the hall, bringing forth dishes with graceful movements. They would ensure that every guest had what they needed, refilling drinks and offering more food as the evening unfolded. The pace of service was intentionally relaxed, allowing guests to enjoy each course fully. In the first course often included soups or stews, served in earthenware bowls. These bowls were crafted with care, each one unique in its shape and glaze. The warmth of the soup would fill the air with inviting aromas, mingling with the scents of herbs and spices. Guests would dip their spoons into the bowls, savoring the warmth and comfort of the dish. Meow, Pamoil. Meow. After the initial course, the table would be adorned with platters of roasted meats, accompanied by an array of vegetables. The colors of the food were vibrant, a feast for the eyes as well as the palate. Roasted lamb, seasoned with fragrant herbs, would be presented alongside root vegetables, their natural sweetness enhanced by careful cooking. Every dish was accompanied by a story, a history that connected the food to the land and the people. Guests would engage in discussions about their origins, the significance of certain ingredients, and the traditions that surrounded them. Little by little, the conversation flowed as easily as the wine, each sip adding to the warmth of the evening. Nina. Oh, ah, mess. Pa. As each course was served, the guests would take their time. The rhythm of eating was deliberate. Forks and knives glided across plates, the soft clinking of metal creating a soothing symphony. Laughter would rise and fall like waves, each sound a note in the ongoing melody of the evening. Desserts, when they finally arrived, were a celebration in and of themselves. They would be presented with care, arranged artfully on large platters. These desserts might include sweet pastries filled with nuts and honey, or delicate cakes layered with cream and fruit. The presentation was as important as the taste, each dessert a small masterpiece. As the banquet drew to a close, the final course would signal a gentle winding down of the festivities. Guests would lean back in their chairs, feeling the satisfaction of a meal well enjoyed. Conversations would soften, and the laughter would become more subdued. The atmosphere would shift, embracing a sense of contentment and relaxation. In these moments, the details of seating arrangements faded further into the background. The focus shifted to the shared experiences, the connections that had deepened throughout the evening. Little by little, the guests would find themselves drifting into a state of comfort, lulled by the gentle cadence of the banquet. As the last bites of dessert were savored, the host might offer a toast, a final gesture to honor the gathering. Glasses would be raised, filled with rich wines, their colors reflecting the candlelight. Each sip would be a reminder of the evening's joy, a pause to appreciate the camaraderie and the warmth of fellowship. And so, the banquet would gradually come to a close, with soft farewells and gentle smiles exchanged. The seating arrangements, once so significant, would become a distant memory, replaced by the shared laughter and the lingering taste of sweet delights. The echoes of conversation would remain, a soft reminder of the connections forged in that tranquil space. The candles would flicker, casting a serene glow over the gathering. As the guests stood and stretched, they would slowly gather their belongings, taking their time, reflecting on the evening's pleasures. Each step taken would be measured, each moment cherished as they departed from the banquet hall. And thus, the evening would conclude, not with a loud farewell, but with a gentle parting, a soft embrace of memories shared. The significance of the seating arrangements would fade away, leaving only the warmth of community and the soothing rhythm of the evening behind. As the guests meandered away from the banquet hall, the atmosphere remained gently charged with the remnants of laughter and conversation. The departure process itself had a rhythm, a slow pattern that spoke to the elegance of the evening. It was customary for the guests to express their gratitude to the host, that final rite of passage before leaving. They would take a moment, perhaps lingering by the entrance, to nod kindly and share a few soft words of thanks, their tones low and soothing, matching the ambience of the candlelit hall. The host, in turn, would respond with a gracious smile, their eyes sparkling softly in the dim light. It was a ritual as old as the banquets themselves, one that connected the past to the present with each shared glance and word. The host might have prepared a few small tokens, perhaps dried fruits or simple pastries, to send home with their guests. These small gestures, thoughtful and generous, would further enhance the sense of community established during the banquet. Unfeel as the guests exited, they would often step into the cool night air. The transition gentle and peaceful. The sounds of the bustling city outside would be hushed in their hearts, replaced by the warmth of the gathering they had just left. Each guest would carry a small piece of the evening with them, a soft echo of the laughter and shared stories, cradled in their minds as they made their way home. Once the last guest had departed, the host would take a moment to survey the banquet hall. The tables, once adorned with exquisite dishes and elegant decorations, now stood quiet, their surfaces marked with the faint remnants of the evening's feast. The plates, some still half full, would be gathered carefully. The host would select a few ornate serving dishes, crafted from polished pewter or intricately painted ceramic. Each piece would be handled with care, as if the memories of the evening were woven into their very essence. Normal. The cleaning process would begin, a slow and methodical task. The host would first remove the linens that draped over the tables, their textures soft and inviting. These linens were often lavish, rich fabrics that added a touch of elegance to the evening. They would be folded neatly and stored in a designated chest, a place reserved for such special occasions. The chest itself, perhaps made of dark wood and adorned with brass fittings, would sit quietly in a corner of the room, waiting for its next purpose. Then undied. The host would then gather the glassware, the delicate goblets that had held the rich wines and refreshing waters throughout the night. Each glass would be rinsed gently, the sound of water trickling softly filling the space. After rinsing, the glasses would be placed upside down on a soft cloth, allowing them to dry without collecting dust. This careful handling of the glassware was a reflection of the respect afforded to each guest, ensuring that every item used during the banquet would be ready for future gatherings. The plates, too, required attention. Wooden or ceramic, each plate bore the marks of the evening, remnants of sauces or the delicate impressions left by the food served. The host would take their time to scrub each plate, using a simple mixture of warm water and herbs, perhaps a hint of rosemary or a splash of vinegar, to cleanse them thoroughly. The process was not hurried. Rather, it was a moment of reflection upon the evening. Each plate returned to its place in the cupboard, stacked carefully, a quiet promise for future feasts. Lidon, Petfish, Ice, Wash, Wow. The cutlery, elegant silver pieces that had gleamed under the candlelight, would be polished and stored away in their own special drawer. This drawer, lined with soft fabric, would protect the shimmering silver from tarnish. Each piece would be laid down gently, the familiar clinks of metal against metal, a soothing sound in the stillness of the room. And then the host would turn their attention to the remnants of the food itself. Any leftover bread, perhaps a few sweet pastries, would be wrapped carefully in linen cloths. These would be set aside for the next day, a simple breakfast to start the day with memories still fresh in mind. The host might also prepare a small basket of leftovers for the less fortunate, a gesture of kindness that echoed the communal spirit of the banquet. As the last remnants of the feast were tidied away, the host would take a moment to sit in the quiet, the stillness wrapping around them like a warm blanket. They might sip from a simple cup of herbal tea, the steam curling gently into the air. This moment, this pause, was an essential part of the evening's ritual. It allowed time to reflect on the laughter shared, the stories exchanged, and the bonds strengthened. In plenty, the host would then consider the seating arrangements once more, the very topic of this exploration. Each place at the table had been thoughtfully arranged, a tapestry of relationships woven together. The positions of each guest, whether at the head of the table or nestled in a quieter corner, had been determined by a delicate balance of friendships, connections, and social hierarchies. To understand this further, one would need to consider the tools of the trade, the implements that guided the arrangement of such gatherings. A simple measuring tape, perhaps a cloth one, would be used to ensure equal spacing between each chair, creating an atmosphere of balance and harmony. The host might take a moment to visualize the arrangement, picturing each guest and their comfort, while considering the flow of conversation that would naturally arise. Let us see. Should the banquet be a large one, seating charts could be drafted on parchment, using a soft quill dipped in rich ink. The ink would glide across the surface, creating a map of interactions, a plan for where each individual would feel most at ease. This careful planning was a testament to the importance of social harmony, ensuring that each guest would be seated not only for their own comfort, but also for the comfort of those around them. The act of seating was, in essence, a dance of logistics. Each chair might be slightly different in style, some adorned with intricate carvings, others simple and sturdy. A host would ensure that the most ornate chairs, perhaps those upholstered with luxurious fabrics, were reserved for the most esteemed guests. Meanwhile, simpler chairs would be placed for those of quieter standing, allowing them to feel at ease among the grandeur. And so, this process of arranging and rearranging, of planning and measuring, unfolded softly. It was a routine that carried a rhythm, much like the ebb and flow of the gathering itself. The host would breathe deeply, inhaling the remnants of the evening, the lingering sense of spices and sweetness, the laughter still hanging in the air, like a melody that played softly in the background. With each detail tended to, the banquet hall would return to a state of tranquility. The candles, now extinguished, would leave behind a faint scent of wax, a gentle reminder of the warmth shared within those walls. The tables would stand ready, the linens folded and stored neatly away, awaiting the next occasion. The memories of the seating arrangements, intricate and thoughtful, would fade softly into the background, much like the echoes of the joyful conversations that once filled the space. And so, the evening would draw to a close, not with a definitive end, but with a gentle sigh of contentment, a quiet promise held within the walls of the banquet hall, waiting for the next gathering, the next shared experience, and the next quiet reflection on who sat where and why it mattered, even if just a little. As the echoes of the evening faded, the banquet hall settled into a serene quiet, a space that had witnessed the gentle ebb and flow of social interactions. The preparations for each banquet required meticulous attention to detail. Each item was measured, considered, and placed with care. The host, often a figure of gentle authority, would gather various tools to aid in the seating arrangements. Measuring tapes, soft textiles, and wooden tablets filled with notes were essential components of this quiet orchestration. The measuring tapes were typically made of soft fabric, allowing for quiet unspooling. They measured not just distances, but also the intimate spaces between guests. As each table was set, the length of the tablecloth was measured to ensure it draped gracefully over the edges, a reminder of the elegance that was expected. The cloths themselves were often woven with fine threads, their textures inviting touch, while their colors were selected to evoke calmness and harmony. And then, slowly, the tables would be positioned. Each table might vary in size, accommodating anywhere from 6 to 12 guests, depending on the particular gathering. The host would consider the numbers carefully, calculating exactly how many could sit comfortably without feeling cramped. The arrangement of tables was often in a U shape or a large oval, allowing for a sense of inclusion, a gentle embrace of conversation. As the tables found their places, the host would also select the chairs. Each chair was a small piece of art, often adorned with soft cushions that invited relaxation. The cushions were filled with down feathers or wool, providing a gentle embrace for weary bodies. The host would think carefully about the placement of these chairs, ensuring that the most esteemed guests were seated in the most advantageous spots, often at the head of the table or flanked by fine tapestries depicting historical events. Each guest received a card, a small piece of parchment inscribed with their name, elegantly written in dark ink, presenting a gentle invitation to their assigned seat. The names were arranged in a way that reflected hierarchies and relationships, but the host ensured that every name was treated with equal respect. The cards were often placed atop the fine linens, a soft reminder of the order that governed these gatherings. The linens, once pressed and smooth, were layered carefully. The topmost layer was often white or cream, symbolizing purity, while additional layers might vary in color, reflecting the hues of the season or the time of day. The textures of these linens were varied, some smooth and inviting, others slightly coarse, lending depth to the sensory experience of the banquet. The preparation would typically begin days in advance. A schedule was laid out, detailed and methodical, noting who would assist with the arrangements. Each person had a role, a task that contributed to the greater whole. One would be tasked with measuring and arranging, while another would focus on the delicate art of folding linens. Still, others would prepare the candles, ensuring they were evenly spaced and trimmed to the same height, creating a gentle glow when lit. The candles themselves were often crafted from beeswax or tallow, their soft light providing a warm ambience. Each was placed within a holder, often made of brass or silver, polished to catch the light and reflected softly throughout the room. The holders were arranged along the center of the table, spaced evenly, to ensure that every guest could benefit from the gentle flicker of light. As the day of the banquet approached, the host would walk through the hall, visualizing the gathering. With each step, there was a calm assurance in the routine. The placement of food was also considered. Dishes would be arranged on large platters, each one carefully selected for both flavor and presentation. The platters themselves were often crafted from fine ceramics or polished wood, each surface reflecting the artistry of the culture. And then, little by little, the placement of food would be established. The host would allocate specific sections of the table for different courses, ensuring that there was a harmonious flow from appetizers to main courses, and finally to dessert. Each course would be served at intervals, allowing for conversation to blossom gently between the offerings. The timing was essential, as was the temperature of the food. Each dish had its own ideal serving temperature, a detail that required attention. A gentle reminder to the kitchen staff was included in the banquet schedule, noting when to begin heating each dish, ensuring everything was ready just as guests were seated. Once the food was laid out, another team would prepare the beverages. The selection might include a variety of wines, ales, and water, served in goblets that glimmered softly in the light. These vessels were often made of glass or metal, each selected for its ability to convey the richness of the drink within. The goblets were arranged at each place setting, positioned to the right of the plates, inviting guests to partake. A gentle ritual would unfold. Once all was prepared, the host would step back, surveying the space with a soft smile. The hall would be filled with the aroma of spices and freshly baked bread. The atmosphere would grow thick with expectation, a quiet hum of anticipation that simmered beneath the surface. Meanwhile, the guests would begin to arrive, each one greeted warmly and shown to their respective seats. The host would guide them gently, ensuring that they felt welcomed and comfortable. The seating was not just a matter of hierarchy, but also a consideration of conversation. The host would encourage mingling, pairing guests who might share interests, creating a soft web of dialogue that would intertwine throughout the evening. What a... As the guests settled into their chairs, the host would take a moment to observe. Each person would find their place, the cushions cradling them softly, the gentle clinking of goblets and the soft rustle of linens would fill the air. The atmosphere would shift, becoming more relaxed as the banquet began to unfold. And so, the evening would flow. Conversations would rise and fall like a gentle tide, the arrangements of the tables and chairs creating an intimate space for sharing stories and laughter. Little by little, the connections would deepen, the enjoyment of the meal becoming a shared experience, each guest contributing to the warmth of the gathering. In this way, the banquet hall would transform, not just through the seating arrangements, but through the gentle interactions that blossomed within its walls. Each gathering served as a reminder of the delicate balance of social etiquette, of the calm routines that created a harmonious atmosphere, one where every detail mattered, even if, in the grand scheme of things, it seemed to matter just a little. As the banquet commenced, the gentle hum of conversation filled the air, blending seamlessly with the soft clinking of utensils against plates. The careful arrangement of the tables and chairs created a harmonious environment. Each chair was placed precisely, about 2 feet apart, allowing guests to engage comfortably without feeling crowded. The tables themselves, typically made of polished wood or finely crafted marble, were adorned with finely woven tablecloths, often in muted colors that complemented the decor of the hall. The table settings included elegant goblets made of glass or metal, each crafted to hold a generous portion of wine to accompany the meal. In Byzantine culture, the wine was often diluted with water, a practice rooted in moderation and social etiquette. The goblets would be filled to about 1/3 of their capacity, allowing for the gentle swirling of the wine, releasing its bouquet into the air. Soft linens were folded elegantly on the plates, each napkin a precise square, measuring about 18 inches on each side. They were often embellished with intricate embroidery, depicting motifs of nature or geometric patterns, reflecting the artistry of the time. As guests settled into their seats, they would gently unfold their napkins, laying them across their laps in a soothing ritual that signified the beginning of the meal. The menu for a typical Byzantine banquet would be planned meticulously, with a selection of dishes designed to please a variety of palates. The host would often select between 5 to 7 dishes, each one carefully considered to create a balanced meal. The first course might feature a light soup, perhaps a lentil or a chickpea broth, served in delicate bowls that were easy to handle. Each bowl would hold about 8 ounces, just enough to whet the appetite without overwhelming the senses. As the evening progressed, the main courses would be served. Roasted meats, such as lamb or chicken, would be presented on large platters, each platter carefully arranged to showcase the colors and textures of the food. The meat would be seasoned with herbs and spices, often sourced from local markets. The host would have spent time selecting these ingredients, ensuring that each herb complemented the flavors of the dishes. It was not uncommon for the host to spend several hours discussing prices and quality with the vendors, finding the perfect balance between cost and quality. Vegetables were also a staple of the meal, often prepared in a simple manner to highlight their natural flavors. A small side dish of seasoned greens, perhaps sautéed with olive oil and garlic, would accompany the meats. These dishes were served in bowls that held about 4 cups. The vibrant greens, glistening softly, would be scattered across the tables, their colors inviting and fresh. The serving process was deliberate and respectful. Servers, often dressed in simple tunics, would move gracefully between the tables, carrying platters and bowls with both hands. They would approach each table with a gentle bow, presenting the food to the guests before allowing them to serve themselves. The careful choreography of serving ensured that no one felt rushed, creating a soothing rhythm to the meal. As guests began to indulge in the offerings, the air would fill with the aroma of spices and the soft sounds of appreciation. Conversations would meld into an easy cadence, punctuated by laughter and the occasional clinking of glasses. The soft lighting, provided by flickering oil lamps, cast a warm glow, creating a soft ambience that enveloped the space. Between courses, the host would often initiate a toast, raising their goblet with a gentle flourish. The guests would follow suit, lifting their glasses in unison, the soft chime of glass against glass resonating through the hall. It was a moment of connection, a pause that allowed everyone to appreciate the gathering. Each toast would be simple, perhaps a few words wishing health and prosperity, and then the guests would take a sip, savoring the flavors of the wine. After the main courses, a selection of fruits would be presented. Figs, pomegranates, and grapes, each beautifully arranged on platters, would provide a refreshing conclusion to the savory dishes. The fruits were often sourced from local orchards, ensuring they were ripe and flavorful. Guests would take pieces, the delicate flesh yielding easily as they bit into them, releasing their juices. Lee! The atmosphere remained calm and inviting, the gentle sound of chewing and the soft murmur of conversations creating a lullaby of communal enjoyment. As the evening wore on, the host would carefully monitor the pace of the meal, ensuring that the rhythm remained pleasant and unhurried. Guests would be encouraged to take their time, savoring each bite, allowing the flavors to linger before moving on to the next course. Throughout the evening, the seating arrangements continued to play an important role in the dynamics of the gathering. The host, having thoughtfully considered the relationships among the guests, would ensure that those with common interests sat near one another. This careful alignment fostered a gentle flow of conversation, creating a tapestry of dialogue that wove through the hall. It was not uncommon for a designated conversational lead to emerge, someone who naturally guided discussions, perhaps sharing stories or asking questions that invited others to join in. This gentle leadership helped maintain a rhythm to the interactions, ensuring that no one person dominated the conversation, allowing each voice to be heard, each story to be shared. As the banquet progressed, another layer of etiquette would emerge. Guests would often pause before taking a sip of their wine, allowing the conversation to flow around them. They would wait for a moment, ensuring that they were not interrupting the natural ebb and flow of dialogue. This small act spoke volumes about the respect and consideration that defined the gathering. The evening would stretch on, slowly and gently. As the final courses made their way around the tables, the atmosphere would become even more relaxed. A light dessert might be served, such as honey cakes or sweet pastries, accompanied by a small cup of fragrant herbal tea. Each dessert would be placed delicately in front of each guest, the gentle aroma wafting through the air, inviting them to indulge. Tea. As the banquet drew to a close, the final toasts would be made, the goblets raised once again in a soft, clinking symphony. The guests would take a moment to reflect on the evening, the shared experiences drawing them closer. It was a gentle reminder of the bonds formed over a meal, the subtle dance of seating and conversation, weaving a tapestry of connections that, while seemingly mundane, bore the weight of shared humanity. And little by little, the guests would begin to rise from their seats, their movements slow and deliberate. They would thank the host, expressing their gratitude for the evening, and perhaps sharing a few gentle words about their enjoyment of the meal. With soft smiles and gentle nods, they would begin to gather their belongings, the evening winding down in a cozy rhythm, the echoes of laughter and conversation still lingering in the air. And the banquet hall would slowly empty, the gentle sounds of chairs scraping against the floor, the soft rustle of linens being gathered. The host would take a moment to observe the aftermath, the remnants of the meal scattered across the tables, a testament to the shared experience. And then, little by little, the hall would return to its tranquil state, awaiting the next gathering, ready to welcome the next group of guests, to create once again that warm, inviting atmosphere filled with connection and camaraderie. As the banquet hall settles into a serene quietude, the meticulous nature of the preparations becomes evident. The tables, once laden with an array of dishes, hold remnants of the evening's fare. Each item has its place, and every detail serves a purpose, however small it may seem. The utensils, crafted from brass and silver, gleamed softly in the dim light, carefully aligned beside each plate. The forks rested at the left, and the knives to the right, a gentle reminder of the etiquette that guided each guest's actions. With soft and careful movements, the servants would begin the slow process of clearing the tables. Wooden trays, large and sturdy, were used to gather the dishes. These trays often measured about 2 feet in length and 1 foot in width, designed to hold a substantial number of plates and bowls, yet easy enough to maneuver through the narrow spaces of the hall. The servants would stack the plates meticulously, ensuring that the more fragile ceramic dishes were placed on top, protected from the weight of the heavier items below. This care in handling the items reflected the respect for the craftsmanship involved in their creation. The remnants of food, still fragrant and appealing, were often returned to the kitchen. Here, the head cook would inspect what could be salvaged. Many ingredients were expensive and rare, each carefully sourced from distant lands. Spices such as saffron and cinnamon, once stored in glass jars, were precious commodities. The cook would assess how much remained, deciding whether to save it for another banquet or to incorporate it into daily meals for the household. The kitchen, a bustling yet organized space, was equipped with a large hearth where large pots simmered, filled with broths and stews. A measuring cup, crafted from bronze, would often be used to ensure that each recipe remained consistent. This cup was roughly a quart in size, allowing for accuracy in the preparation of dishes. Little by little, the cook would gather the necessary ingredients, measuring them with care, ensuring that each component was balanced and harmonious. The banquet's conclusion also involved a specific sequence of actions for the host. As the guests departed, the host would take a moment to engage with each one, extending gentle farewells. This ritual of parting was important, reinforcing connections that were often nurtured over years of shared experiences. The host would offer small tokens of appreciation, perhaps a pouch of dried fruits or a sample of a favored spice blend wrapped in a simple cloth. These gestures, though slight, were steeped in the customs of politeness and gratitude, creating a comforting ritual that echoed the warmth of the gathering. Meanwhile, the linens, once crisp and fresh, were gathered and transported to the storeroom. Here, they were folded with care, ensuring that creases were smooth and that each piece was stored neatly. The storeroom, cool and dark, was lined with shelves filled with linens of every shade and pattern. Each cloth was labeled, indicating its purpose: banquet, daily use, or special occasions. The linens used for banquets were of finer quality, often made from soft linen or even silk, their surfaces smooth and inviting against the skin. The schedule for the next banquet would also begin to take shape. Planning such an event required careful consideration of various factors. The host would consult a small notebook, meticulously kept, filled with notes on previous gatherings, guest preferences, and seasonal ingredients. This notebook, bound in leather and adorned with simple designs, often measured about 6 by 8 inches, making it portable and easy to handle. Inside, the pages were filled with precise details, such as the number of guests expected, their seating preferences, and the dishes that had been well received in the past. The process of choosing a date for the next gathering was approached methodically. The host would consider the lunar calendar, noting phases that might influence guests' availability. This consideration was important, as certain dates were deemed more auspicious than others. Little by little, the host would jot down notes, creating a potential guest list that reflected relationships and connections cultivated over time. As the evening continued to fade into night, the lighting in the banquet hall would shift. Candles, once bright and flickering, would slowly melt, their wax pooling gently in the holders. The rhythmic drip of wax onto the table was a soft background sound, a reminder of the passage of time. The servants would ensure that candle holders were cleaned after each banquet, polished until they shone. This upkeep, while mundane, was an essential part of maintaining the grandeur of the banquet experience. The careful organization of the storage room also played a crucial role in the ongoing preparations. Ingredients would be stored in earthenware jars, each labeled in a simple script. These jars, varying in size from a quart to several gallons, were crafted to preserve the freshness of the contents within. The larger jars might hold grains or legumes, while smaller jars contained spices and herbs, each carefully sealed to protect them from moisture and pests. Woof. The pantry adjacent to the kitchen would be stocked with items necessary for daily meals and special occasions. The host took care to ensure that the pantry was well organized, with a clear inventory of supplies. Each week, the servants would conduct a gentle count of the items, noting what needed replenishing. This process was done quietly, without haste, ensuring that the household remained well stocked and prepared. The gentle rhythm of life continued in this manner, each task flowing seamlessly into the next. The routines, though mundane, created a sense of order and stability. The banquet hall, after its vibrant gathering, would return to its tranquil state, waiting patiently for the next occasion to bring warmth and connections back into its embrace. As the moonlight softly filtered through the windows, the hall remained a silent witness to the ebb and flow of life. The echoes of laughter and conversation lingered in the air, gradually fading, replaced by the soothing sounds of the night. Little by little, each detail of the banquet would slip into memory, as the preparations for future gatherings began to unfold in a cozy rhythm, rich with history and tradition. Yeah, ideal. In preparation for the next banquet, the careful organization of seating arrangements would begin well in advance. Each detail mattered, though it might seem trivial to the untrained eye. The host, often a figure of importance in the household, would first gather the necessary tools for this endeavor. A soft, smooth parchment would be laid out on a sturdy wooden table, and a quill, dipped in calming, dark ink, would be poised to record the names of the expected guests. This moment, quiet and deliberate, set the tone for the gathering ahead. Ah, the Indian soul. The host, perhaps with a gentle breath, would reflect on the relationships among the guests. Little by little, the intricacies of social hierarchies would guide the placement of each individual. To the right of the host, the most esteemed guest would be seated, while the less prominent attendees would follow in a careful order. This act of arranging would take time, a measured pace to ensure that each individual's status was honored. In the days leading up to the banquet, the seating chart would be revisited several times. The host might adjust the placements as they considered various factors, friendships, rivalries, and the delicate nature of social dynamics. The quill would flow smoothly across the parchment, each name written with care, each stroke reflecting the thoughtfulness of the host. As they focused, they would often take a moment to breathe, to settle their shoulders, allowing the pressure of decisions to melt away into the calm atmosphere of the room. My fee, Reina, worthy. I say, the banquet hall itself, with its high ceilings and elegantly draped fabrics, served as a backdrop to these arrangements. The length of the table, often measuring around 10 to 12 feet, would be adorned with a soft, rich tapestry. This fabric would be carefully selected, perhaps woven from fine materials, its weight lending a sense of gravity to the event. The table would be laid out with precision, each place setting meticulously prepared. The plates, crafted from earthenware, or perhaps even precious metals, would be polished until they gleamed. The host would take care to ensure that each plate was free of smudges, reflecting the light of candles that danced along the table. Tiny forks, spoons, and knives would be aligned with tenderness, their polished surfaces catching the flickering light softly. The cutlery would be placed at right angles to the edge of the table, a small detail that spoke volumes about the host's attention to etiquette. As the day of the banquet approached, the servants would be given their tasks. Each would have a role, a piece of the intricate puzzle of the evening. The head servant, perhaps a seasoned individual, would oversee the preparations. They would gently assign duties to their fellow workers, ensuring that everyone understood their responsibilities. The setting of the table would be a task completed in tandem. Some servants would be tasked with laying out the plates and cutlery, while others would arrange the centerpieces. These centerpieces, often low and lush, would consist of seasonal flowers, carefully selected for their color and fragrance. The flowers would be trimmed with precision, stems cut at an angle, allowing them to absorb water with ease. Each bloom would be placed gently within a simple, unadorned vase, ensuring that the guests could converse without obstruction. The hours of preparation would flow gently into one another, each moment contributing to the overall atmosphere of the banquet. The air would become infused with the sense of cooking, as the kitchen began its symphony of flavors. The host would occasionally step into the kitchen, perhaps to check on the progress of the dishes. Here, The gentle bubbling of pots and the soft sizzle of ingredients would create an inviting soundscape. Reynolds, the head chef, a skilled artisan, would oversee the final touches. Each dish would be plated with care, garnished with herbs that brought color and aroma to the table. The chef would measure ingredients with utmost precision, ensuring that each flavor harmonized with the others. The careful balance of salt and sweetness, acidity and richness, would be a testament to their skill, though the emphasis on culinary excellence was secondary to the gathering itself. Nishtan insiu anoi asemans del imui. As the evening approached, the host would return to the banquet hall, where the final touches were made. Candles, each one measured to ensure they would burn throughout the evening, would be lit and placed strategically. The soft glow of candlelight would create an intimate atmosphere, as shadows danced gently upon the walls. The meticulous arrangement of seating would be one final task in a long list of preparations. Each name on the parchment would be cross-referenced with the seating chart on the table, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Little by little, the host would feel a sense of tranquility wash over them, the gentle rhythm of the evening unfolding as planned. As the guests began to arrive, the host would greet each one with warmth. They would guide their guests to their respective seats, ensuring that everyone felt welcomed and appreciated. The careful placement of each attendee was not merely a reflection of status, but also of camaraderie. Neighbors would be seated near one another, friends placed side by side to encourage conversation. The seating arrangements, though seemingly unimportant, fostered a sense of connection among those gathered. Throughout the evening, the gentle ebb and flow of conversation would fill the air. The host would move gracefully between tables, making sure that each guest felt included. This delicate dance, a balancing act of attention and hospitality, was a skill honed over many gatherings. The host's movements would be slow and measured, ensuring that every guest was seen and heard. As the banquet continued, the seating arrangements would remain a soft undercurrent to the evening's festivities. The guests would enjoy their meals, savoring the carefully prepared dishes, while the host would observe a quiet smile upon their face. The atmosphere would be relaxed, with laughter and chatter weaving through the air like a gentle breeze, a cozy rhythm enveloping the room. Little by little, the evening would draw to a close. As the final courses were served, the host would ensure that each guest was satisfied, offering a warm glance and a gentle nod. The banquet, though a simple gathering of friends and family, would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of those present. It would be a moment in time, softly tucked into the folds of memory, cherished for its warmth and connection. And so, the cycle of preparation and gathering would continue. In the days following the banquet, the host would reflect on the evening, perhaps making notes for future gatherings. The parchment, now marked with the names of guests, would be stored away, a gentle reminder of the connections forged over food and laughter. With each new banquet, the same care would be taken, the same gentle attention to detail honored. The art of seating arrangements, while seemingly mundane, was a testament to the bonds that tied the community together, each placement whispering stories of friendship, rivalry, and connection. And with each gathering, the banquet hall would remain a silent witness to the ebb and flow of life, awaiting the next occasion to bring warmth and joy back into its embrace. As the days passed after the banquet, the host engaged in a soft rhythm of reflection and preparation. Each banquet was a gentle cycle, a harmonious repetition of events that brought joy and comfort to the community. The tools required for such gatherings were simple yet essential. A large wooden table, perhaps crafted from oak or walnut, would be the centerpiece. Its surface, polished to a warm sheen, would reflect the flickering candlelight, casting a soft glow across the room. The host would begin the process of gathering the necessary materials. Linen tablecloths, freshly laundered and ironed, would be laid out, their crisp edges aligned with the corners of the table. Each tablecloth, measuring approximately 2 meters by 3 meters, would drape gently over the edges, cascading to the floor. A careful eye would ensure that no wrinkles marred their surface, for attention to detail was paramount in these gatherings. As the table was dressed, the next step involved selecting the appropriate dishes and utensils for the evening. Clay or ceramic plates, each roughly 25 centimeters in diameter, would be arranged in place. The host would carefully consider the type of cuisine to be served, drawing on the seasonal availability of ingredients. The plates would be adorned with simple yet elegant patterns, often hand-painted by local artisans, telling stories of their own through intricate designs. Cutlery would also be chosen with care. A set of iron or bronze utensils, each polished to a gentle luster, would be laid beside each plate. The fork, knife, and spoon, each with their own designated place, would be aligned with precision. The fork, resting to the left, the knife to the right, and the spoon, often a smaller version, beside the knife. Each utensil would rest on the unwrinkled linen, a small but significant detail reflecting the host's commitment to a pleasing dining experience. Once the table was set, the next phase would involve the careful placement of glassware. Simple goblets, crafted from glass or clay, and sometimes adorned with delicate etchings, would be positioned above the cutlery. Each goblet would have a capacity of approximately 300 milliliters, just large enough for a modest serving of wine or water. The host would ensure that each glass was spotless, reflecting the warm light of the candles, creating a sense of welcoming intimacy as guests gathered around the table. With the table prepared, the host would turn to the task of arranging seating. This was perhaps the most crucial aspect of the gathering. Each guest's position was determined by a delicate balance of relationships. A soft sigh would escape as the host considered the dynamics at play. Each chair, often crafted from the same wood as the table, would be placed with consideration. There would typically be a comfortable distance of about 60 centimeters between each chair, allowing for easy conversation yet maintaining a sense of personal space. The host would gently guide their hands over the back of each chair, ensuring they were clean and free from dust, a gesture of thoughtfulness to those invited. Each chair would be slightly angled towards the center of the table, inviting interaction among guests. The seating chart would be sketched out on parchment, a map of relationships and conversations waiting to unfold. Guests who were close friends would be seated near one another, while those with a hint of rivalry might be placed at opposite ends of the table, a gentle touch to the evening's dynamics. As the hour of the banquet approached, the host would check the timeline for the evening. A schedule, perhaps inscribed on a small piece of parchment, would outline the flow of the evening. The first course, typically served within 30 minutes of the guest's arrival, would be a light appetizer. This would allow everyone to settle in, take a moment to breathe, and engage in gentle conversation. Pacing would be key throughout the banquet. The host would time the serving of each course with precision, allowing for approximately 20 minutes between each dish. This would provide ample time for guests to savor their meals, share stories, and enjoy the company around them. The rhythm of the evening would unfold naturally, like a soft lullaby, with each course leading smoothly into the next. The kitchen, a hub of activity, would be prepared in advance. Copper pots and pans would hang from hooks, gleaming in the soft light. Ingredients would be measured carefully, ensuring that portions were just right. Herbs, often grown in small garden plots, would be picked fresh, their vibrant scents filling the air. As the host observed the preparations, a sense of calm would wash over them, knowing that each ingredient was chosen with care and consideration. The timing of the serving would also require attention. The host would assign specific duties to helpers, perhaps close family members or trusted friends, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Each helper would be briefed on their tasks, gently guiding them to serve the dishes at the appropriate moments. The rhythm of serving would be practiced, each movement fluid and deliberate. As the evening progressed, the host would keep a watchful eye on their guests. Gentle conversations would flow, punctuated by laughter and the clinking of goblets. A soft smile would grace the host's face, reflecting the joy of connection. Each guest's comfort was the priority, and ensuring that no glass remained empty was a subtle but important duty. With each course, the portions would be designed to encourage sharing and conversation. The dishes, ranging from roasted vegetables to tender meats, would be served in communal platters, inviting guests to serve themselves. This act of sharing would foster a sense of togetherness, a reminder that the evening was not merely about food, but about the bonds that nourished the spirit. Throughout the evening, the host would also pay attention to the ambient atmosphere. Soft music, perhaps played on a lyre or a simple flute, would fill the background. The melodies would be gentle, encouraging relaxation and connection among the guests. The flickering candles would provide a soft, warm light, bathing the room in a soothing glow. The rhythms of the evening would continue to unfold. As the final course concluded, the host would gently guide the conversation towards a soft close. Each guest would be invited to share their thoughts, their reflections on the evening, creating a space of warmth and gratitude. And so, the evening would draw to a gentle close. The warmth of companionship would linger in the air as the guests slowly began to depart, their hearts full and their spirits high. The host would watch as they gathered their belongings, offering gentle farewells. Every moment, every detail would become a cherished memory, softly tucked away in the hearts of all who attended. As we gently reflect on the intricate yet uneventful world of Byzantine banquet seating arrangements, we remember the soft layers of tradition that dictated who sat where, and why such details mattered, even if only to the people of that time. We explored the subtle nuances of hierarchy, the quiet significance of physical space, and the unspoken rules that guided these gatherings, slowly and gently unraveling a tapestry of social interactions that, in the end, may not have altered the course of Oz history, but certainly shaped the lives of those present. Imagine now a quiet room, dimly lit, where the night embraces you, and your body settles comfortably against the soft pillows. The world outside fades, and you are left with the soothing rhythm of history. If you enjoyed this tranquil journey, kindly consider liking, subscribing, or sharing your thoughts in the comments. And remember, for added calm, please turn on loop, allowing these gentle reflections to repeat, creating a serene atmosphere for peaceful rest. Ninoan chi, isilin hen, ho, wanint, imawe, will pee.